Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show where we talk about the things that we love. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming and all that good stuff. And joining me today in discussing all that stuff, joining us on Mondays as usual, the one and the only, all the way out on the East Coast. We are so thrilled to have Christian Harloff here. Christian, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Happy to be with you guys.
Good to have you here. And of course, joining us from Burbank, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico, is here.
Live from beautiful downtown Burbank. Hello, everybody.
I miss Burbank. And of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. And then in the second part of the show, well, that's when we take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or an issue that you'd like me to address, go ahead and fire it on into our super chat feature. Two caveats. First, you got to be watching live in order to send in a live question, obviously. But secondly, I'll only answer it as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show. Otherwise, I'll just thank you for your tip anyway. All right. With that down, guys, we got a number of things to talk about here today. So let's get things started with this. You know, Dafne Keen burst onto the scene in Logan and just blew everybody away. Like, as fabulous as Patrick Stewart was. By the way, I still believe Patrick Stewart should have gotten a Best Supporting Actor nomination for that role, be that as it is. And as great as Hugh Jackman was in the movie and how wonderful the movie was overall, a lot of people came out of the theater buzzing about Dafne Keen. Now, of course, a lot of people got excited when she came back for Deadpool and Wolverine. It was great to see her. But now there's a report going around suggesting that Dafne Keen may be in talks with Marvel to come back and reprise her role as X-23. Now, as we have to do sometimes, as we do this story, I must warn you all that this topic, this story, and this conversation must firmly be planted in the rumor mill files. This is not at all confirmed by any studio, any rep, any actor, anywhere. This is simply the rumor that started floating around on Twitter. But it is an interesting enough one that I thought we would take a little bit of time here today.
Can I just ask you, John, real quick? How did you get Emilio Estevez in that picture?
I paid him a lot of money. Paid Emilio. He's not doing a lot these days, so I invited him.
That's in between Young Guns 3.
Stuff like that. So here's the story as it is right now. Okay, so the report goes like this. This is coming to us from the folks over at Geek Tyrant, who wrote the following. Marvel Studios may already have one of its coolest mutants lined up for the MCU's new X-Men, and it's someone fans have been hoping to see stick around. Dafne Keen is, at least reportedly, rumored anyway, in talks to reprise her roles as Laura, also known as X-23, in Marvel's upcoming X-Men reboot. If the report pans out, Keen could make the jump from old Fox universe into Marvel Studios' new generation of mutants after her awesome return in Deadpool and Wolverine. All right. I got a couple of thoughts about this. Obviously, whenever something comes up in the rumor mill, we ask two foundational questions. Question number one, do we find it believable? And question number two is, assume for the sake of the discussion that it is true, how would we feel about it? Well, the truth of the matter is, Dafne Keen, ever since bursting onto the scene with Logan, she's kind of just quietly gone about turning in really great performances. As a matter of fact, I would even present to you that a dog shit show like The Acolyte, I thought she was really good at it. I enjoyed watching her in it, and she's been in a number of other things. And every time she's been on screen, I thought she's delivered. And like everybody else, I was really excited to see her popping up in Deadpool and Wolverine back with Hugh Jackman again. I thought that was great. Her relationship with Logan in the movie Logan is seriously one of the best little dynamics and emotionally resonant relationships I've ever seen on screen in the last bunch of years. I just thought it was great. I really loved it, and I love her. So the idea that Marvel could be looking at somebody like her to bring her back into, you know, the new MCU, even though she's arguably already done that with Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't think it's the most unbelievable thing in the world. So I I would say there's like a 30% chance. In the question of, do I find this believable? I think there's enough there to say it's a valid possibility. So I'll go 30% on it. Not much higher, but not any lower. All right. Well, what about the second question of, let's say it is true. How would I feel about it? It's interesting. And here's the problem that it poses. It poses a Wolverine problem. Because if you do bring her back in at X-23, is she then a de facto replacement for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine or whoever would be playing Wolverine at the time? And I don't think that would be a wise idea at all. I don't think you retire the Wolverine character with Hugh Jackman. Wolverine is just, look, there's no debating it. Wolverine is by far the most popular mutant character in Marvel. He's the most popular X-Man. There's a reason they've done so many things with Wolverine. Could they use a little bit of a break from Wolverine? Oh, there's an argument to be made for that for sure, but you cannot simply discard Wolverine. Like, Wolverine is just too popular of a character. So if you're bringing in X-23 to be a de facto replacement for Wolverine, I don't think that's a good idea. On the other hand, though, there is also an argument to be made that, well, listen, Logan is old enough that even with a brand new Logan in Marvel, assuming it's not going to be Hugh Jackman, even with a brand new Logan, that Logan is still going to be pretty old. And not that the actor will be old, but this Logan could argue been around for a couple of centuries, depending on how you want to play it. And so the fact that he could have spawned a child, or whether she is, like in Logan, just a genetic reproduction of him, or a child, or whichever way they wanted to go, you totally have some foundation there to say we can have both Wolverine and we can have X-23 in this new universe. So if they decided to go with that route, I'd be okay with it. I just don't, guys, want to see them replacing Wolverine when they haven't even got this new X-Men. It would just seem to me to be silly to start a new X-Men universe and not have the most popular X-Men in there. But if they could figure out a way to do both of them at the same time, I think I'd be down with it. So anyway, Christian, let me pose those two questions to you as well. Number one, how believable or realistic do you find this rumor that's going around? And number two, just for the sake of the discussion, let's assume it's true. How would you feel about it?
First part, well, I agree with you 100% on Acolytes. Not only was she great in that, as you say, dog shit show, she was also probably, they could have made that show work had they actually made that show about her. If that entire show, The Acolyte, she would have been the Acolyte, because she's so strong of an actress, I think it could work. But that's another conversation. As far as the rumor, how believable, I think these types of rumors, when they start to pop up right before D23, I always give a little bit more credit to, because that's when people like to start talking to people that, could potentially get their word out and they want to get their scoop out or whatever it might be. So there's a good possibility. And she also lines up to the age range of the people that are being cast or rumored right now. So I think I'll give a little higher than, I'll go 35, a little higher than yours.
Fair enough.
Just a little. Price is right, shit. But I think that the other side was, would I like to see it? I would, because again, what I just said about her, she's really strong actress. She's going to bring a lot to it. And if they could make it work, depending on it, it really also depends. And this is going to talk about every bit of this next answer that I give, because it's all going to depend, as it always does, on the writing and how it makes sense from Doomsday into Secret Wars into this, right? Are we going to finally get rid of all the multiverse? Is Battle World going to create one particular universe that we're just there for? Because if that does happen, and she from Secret Wars carries on into this, that works. I think what's going to happen, because I actually would prefer not, Wolverine's my favorite X-Men. I would prefer to not have Wolverine in any of the X-Men movies until X-Men maybe 2 or 3, because I'd like to see them build out the strength of the other X-Men first, because you don't have to rely on what Hugh Jackman has done. However, I actually think, because they're gonna all the other X-Men are easier to recast because you didn't have as much of a connection to it. Replacing Hugh Jackman is going to be the toughest thing. I think Hugh Jackman's actually going to be in the X-Men movie. I think Hugh Jackman as this Wolverine, eventually transferring and going away from it, and having him with her would probably be the way that they're going to do it. So I think Hugh Jackman will still be around for the X-Men movie as old Wolverine, and I hope it's not true, but I just feel like they're going to keep milking that teat for a long time.
But okay, but wouldn't that present a problem in the sense that, look, Hugh can only play, let's be realistically, till you're 90 is great to say, but aren't you then creating basically a future where you can't have your most popular character? Like, great, you make him the Wolverine of this new universe, but then you've backed yourself into a corner, haven't you? Then what do they do about Wolverine moving forward?
What I'm saying is that the Wolverine I don't think he's of that universe. I don't think he's supposed to be there.
Okay.
I think he's going to be there, and maybe the Wolverine of that universe is with Stryker and getting.
So you do both, and so have a Hugh Jackman and replace him as Wolverine in that same
Wolverine.
universe.
That Wolverine's under the knife, and he's nowhere to be found at that point. And then when you introduce him in the second or the third movie, he comes in, and then you're like, okay, that, and then you can introduce, we had a Wolverine, or whatever, however they want to do it. But I mean, and again, I'll make it clear, I would want that. I would much rather them just have no Wolverine in this. He pops up in a post-credit scene or something, or shows up in the second movie. That to me would be a better way to do it. But I just feel like Marvel's going to try to market the new X-Men movie and show, well, we still got him coming back for one more run.
All right, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? There's a rumor going around that they might be looking at talking to Dafne Keen to have her come in for the new X-Men movie as her Logan character X-23. Two questions, same for you. Do you believe this? And even if you did believe it, would you like the idea? Whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, it's the beginning of a brand new week, which you all know means more records being broken by the Odyssey. The Odyssey, which is a film that, hey, listen, I got to admit right up front here that initially, if you go back, 6 months or whatever ago, I thought it's a Christopher Nolan film. It'll be huge. It'll be big. I had my doubts that it could hit $1 billion. I thought it was within the realm of possibility, but I had my doubts it could hit $1 billion. I mean, it's going to be R-rated. It's, all this kind of stuff. Then again, Oppenheimer got close. Had my doubts. Well, it got to $1 billion, no problem. And it got to $1 billion fairly easily. But now it's crossed several more major box office thresholds, as the folks over at Deadline are now reporting that The Odyssey has become Christopher Nolan's biggest hit of his career. Yes, it has passed his Dark Knight movies, and now sitting at $1.1 billion. Christopher Nolan's biggest film of his career. And by the way, it's still rolling. It made a bunch more money this weekend. It's going to continue to make money, which is absolutely crazy. But there's a couple of other significant little things to note in all of this. One of which is that not only is it now Christopher Nolan's biggest film, it is now the biggest film in IMAX history. And that really probably doesn't surprise a lot of people, because the Odyssey, I still get messages from people saying, I still had to book my tickets 6 weeks out to go see the Odyssey if I wanted to go see it at the 70 millimeter IMAX. So like, it shouldn't come as any surprise. It's made a little under $300 million just on IMAX screens. And again, for IMAX, that is an all-time record for them. So it's now the biggest Christopher Nolan movie. It's now the biggest IMAX movie, but also it's achieved some pretty neat things here in this year. With the results of this weekend's box office, the Odyssey has now leapfrogged over films like Super Mario Galaxy. These are all billion-dollar films. It has now passed Super Mario Galaxy movie. It has passed Michael. It has passed Toy Story, as the Odyssey now sits only behind Spider-Man Brand New Day as the biggest film of 2026, sitting right now at $1.1 billion. It has also, by the way, passed Joker to become the second biggest grossing R-rated film in history. It now only trails behind Deadpool and Wolverine at $1.3 billion, a mark I said the Odyssey could never catch. Well, I might have to be walking that one back too in about 2 weeks, because it actually looks now like it does have a shot at passing Deadpool and Wolverine to become the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. And again, it is notable to see that not only has it passed movies like Toy Story, Michael, and Super Mario Galaxy to be the highest grossing, just behind Spider-Man Brand New Day, which we're going to talk about that movie a little bit later in the show, but it's the speed at which it's done it. Like, it has crossed the $1 billion mark faster than any of those films even got to 800 million. So it's still on this ridiculously high pace. Again, want to remind everybody, just for historical context, this only became the third R-rated film in history to join the $1 billion club. In the long history of big R-rated films, only 3 have ever done it. Deadpool and Wolverine, Joker, and now Odyssey. And now Odyssey's past Joker and closing in on Deadpool, Wolverine. So this, to me, guys, is absolutely insane that it is still rolling like this. It is still making more money. I have now heard from certain websites, guys, that the Odyssey needs to make $3.7 billion to break even. That's the word going around. Now it's 3.7 billion it needs to break even.
Wow.
But be that as it may, Christian, Nolan's biggest film ever, IMAX's biggest film ever, has passed all the other films of 2026 and now only sits behind Spider-Man Brand New Day. And now taken the second spot to be the biggest R-rated film of all time. Which one of those 4 stands out to you as kind of being the most notable, most impressive? And what are you thinking about the run this thing's on right now?
It's what you said before. It's the speed in which it's doing it. And it's also the fact that when this movie was announced and when they started to have the trailers and everything and the hype started getting around it, a lot of us were saying this is going to be another, because I said, look, Oppenheimer, a movie about the guy who made the atomic bomb, made almost $1 billion on his last one out. He made that. Most directors might get acclaim, might be able to put together all that stuff that, puts together for Academy Awards and everything too. But very few directors are able to put together that type of story and get almost $1 billion. I don't care about Barbenheimer and all that stuff too. Sure, that helped, but it also was the fact that Nolan's name and what he brings to filmmaking got people excited. So when this movie, which is way more accessible to all audiences, was announced, and the fact that when you make a good sword and sandals type movie based obviously off of everything that everyone read in high school, you have an opportunity. I thought it would make $1 billion. I always thought it would make $1 billion. I just didn't know that it would A, make it this quick, and B, I always thought, if you asked me, what do you think would have made more money, Toy Story or the Odyssey? I was like, well, Toy Story is definitely going to do it, because Toy Story is an hour and a half. It's the next one in the franchise. Parents can take their kids to see it, and because kids can't see the Odyssey, so we're going probably like 1.5, 1.6. I thought Toy Story even had a shot to beat Spider-Man. How stupid I was on as far as that goes, But this movie, Odyssey, beat Toy Story, and it's going to continue. I think it will beat Deadpool and Wolverine, because I went to the movies over the weekend, and I was walking into, and I saw these 2 old ladies walking into the theater, and I took my kid to see Paw Patrol, and I said to the ladies jokingly, I was like, you guys here to see Paw Patrol, right? She's like, no, we're here to see the Odyssey. And I was like, oh, and they were like probably in their 70s going to see the Odyssey. And I'm like, it's just talking, everybody's going to see it. And so I think the fact that it did that, and that it is going to be probably, it won't be the number 2 movie of the year, but it'll probably be number 3 for the entire year, which is
worst.
Well, what could beat beat
Doomsday, Dune.
I think Dune 3
Spider-Man.
has an outside shot.
People keep saying, look, there's no one that would be happier if Dune is hitting the kind of numbers that people have been predicting. I just think that movie is too I don't know if intricate's the word, but I just think it's too detailed. I think the movie is going to make like 800 million, which is a big number.
I actually, if I had to put $5 down, that's where I think it lands. Is there. The reason I'll say I think it's got a shot, like I won't fall out of my chair if it also crosses that $1 billion mark, is number 1, the momentum of the last film. Number 2, the radical jump in box office from 1 to 2. Definitely. If it can repeat that from 2 to 3, which I'm not saying that it will or that that's a given, but if it could, but
John, it didn't have Doomsday to compete against.
Right. Now, what some people might say to that, and what we have to actually wait and see, is does the opposite in fact happen, where it enjoys a Barbenheimer effect where the rising tide raises all ships? I'm not saying it will. Yeah, I'm not saying that it will at all. I'm just saying I acknowledge that possibility is there.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think the 3 spot is probably exactly where it ends up. I'm just saying I'm not going to throw anybody out of the room if they think that Dune has a possibility of maybe overtaking it as well. But again, I think at worst it comes in at the number 4 at this year.
3 or 4 spot is fine, but I think that the atmosphere of this year and movie going and whatever is in the water, what we saw with Spider-Man and Odyssey with this record-breaking crowds coming to theaters, we're going to see again at the end of the year. I'm a firm believer, and it's not all going to be 100% because of Doomsday. It will be because of Dune. There's just so much enthusiasm for going to theaters right now. So,
by the way, did you guys see that? I think it was Bloomberg had this cover article called "The Year We Went Back to the Movies."
Yeah,
which is it was really quite interesting, talking about also the generational shift. Like pre-2019, it was a certain age bracket that was the majority of people going to movies. Now it's a different age bracket that's majority going back. It's pretty interesting. And well, I think there's a lot of fascinating things to see what happens when Doomsday happens.
I agree, but I think that all those movies, whether it's Obsession or Backrooms or Spider-Man or this movie, all 4 of those movies treated the audience with respect. All 4 of them treated the audience with intellectual stories, character building, emotional storylines, and they didn't just rely on sloppy CGI and just shove popcorn in your face and watch the same shit that you've watched a million times over, that a lot of these studios do again and again and again. Go, how come nobody's seeing the movies? Because we've seen it a million times. That's why, like, Supergirl could have been something interesting with the actual graphic novel, but instead it was just a broken story of edited together nonsense. That, and I use that as just an example that the studios keep doing again and again and again. Will they take note, or will they keep trying to just make copies of everything else? Who knows?
And that's why I think Dune 3 has a shot at maybe hitting $1 billion. Again, my $5 would be in complete agreement with you, Trish. I think 800 is the realistic.
That's still a good number.
It would be amazing.
It's a huge number.
Yeah, a huge number for an R-rated film. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? The Odyssey continues trekking, passing several more major thresholds this week. Which one is most impressive to you? How big do you think it can be? Do you think it will ever get to that ever-moving break-even number? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the movies that I had been paying no attention to going into CinemaCon this past April in Las Vegas was this little film with Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway called The End of Oak Street. And then they gave us a presentation for it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this. They've put out a few more trailers since, obviously, and the film is opening this week. And I got to tell you, I am legit. I've crossed that precipice into legit excitement territory. Like I cannot wait to watch this movie. Now, it also looked like one of those movies that could very easily end up being a dumpster fire. But the first reactions are now out for The End of Oak Street, and they're really good. And not only are they good, they're not what I was expecting. Even if they were good, I was expecting to hear about one kind of movie, but it sounds like it's another kind of a movie. Let's go over to our friends at Joe Blow, who mentioned some of the first reactors here, and take a look at what some of the things they had to say. Brandon Davis, of course, many of you guys follow Brandon Davis. He wrote, "The End of Oak Street is a vicious blast. Anne Hathaway is so all in on dino terror. Does it have a ton of logic? Maybe not. But is it pure fun thrills? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think this is the best dinosaur movie in a few decades. I don't know if that's a high bar, but definitely the most fun. It's insane." Bill Bria wrote that The End of Oak Street is a thrilling, Amblin-ish adventure isn't surprising. Yet the layers of melancholy and pain that David Robert Mitchell brings into it's in between its abundance of thrills and heart is. It's idiosyncrasies are as unforgettable as its delightfully nasty dinosaurs. Eventual Forever wrote, "The end of Oak Street is an absolute home run. Once the dino stuff gets going, it's pure fucking adrenaline, pushes the PG-13 rating to the absolute limit, tight as a knot, while still leaving room for legit pathos and humor. My favorite blockbuster of the year." Redhead Films wrote, "The end of Oak Street is a minute to get going, but once it does, it's a ton of fun. The women in the film act circles around the men. Annie's giving it 130%. Maisie Stella has some great scene work. Split diopter shots out the wazoo. I'm guessing that's a dinosaur we're going to see in this movie as well." Also, Law wrote, "End of Oak Street is bonkers. It's not the movie I expected it to be. It was better. The family plays very well together, and the spectacle and dinosaur set pieces are so much fun and outright scary. Anne Hathaway can do anything. Starbuck, that's a very good boy." Anyway, I read a whole bunch of them online, got a lot of the reviews, and they're all saying that. Now, when I saw both the presentation and the trailers for The End of Oak Street, yes, got it. There's going to be some dinosaurs. Got it. But it seemed like it was going to be more of a 2011 J.J. Abrams kind of mystery sci-fi about it. The real question is, how did we get here? Is this the island from Lost that we're all on? I really thought it was going to be more of that with some dinosaur stuff, hopefully some good dinosaur action. What we're reading here, though, guys, seems to be, oh no, first and foremost, this is a dinosaur action movie. And that is completely off the page of what I was kind of expecting to hear. So despite the fact that it's very different from what I thought we were going to hear from this, it sounds like everybody had a really good time with it. So Christian, I don't know if you've had a chance to see this one yet or not, or what your anticipation level has been. What are you expecting from this movie?
I'm going to see this movie in about 3 hours.
Nice.
I have a screening of that tonight. I'm going to, as soon as I'll be wrapping up with you, and not too soon after that, I'll be hopping on a train and go see this movie. I'm really excited for this movie because everyone talks about the year of Zendaya. Everyone talks about the year of Tom Holland. This is a year of Anne Hathaway. This is like our 5th or 6th movie she's done this year.
And she's got Verity coming out.
She's got tons of movies coming out, and they've all been, even if you didn't love Devil Wears Prada 2, it made a lot of money. She's doing pretty good for herself. And she commits in. You can't say anything about her. She commits in everything that she's in. She's one of the best working today, and she was incredible in the Odyssey. So John, it goes back to our conversation that we just had about treating the audience with respect. Now, I haven't seen this, but looking at like Brandon Davis's tweet and other people, what they're talking about is the kind of playing with the story and leading into also having a fun dinosaur movie. This movie was made for about, I think, $80 million. This is what Jurassic Park should start doing again. They should start doing things like this instead of this, like I said, the same, really, it's Jurassic Park. So just do the same thing over and over again with no real story, dopey characters, and nothing really that you get excited about. This one seems like you're going to be interested in what's happening. I was locked into because of the cast that they got in general to do it, and because of that kind of, you said, that Lost feel to it. I like the mystery side of it. It's going to feel like an Amblin movie, but now the fact that they actually really putting full effort into just going, let's just go batshit crazy with some really good actors attached to this.
Yeah.
These are the kind of movies that we need again. These are the kind of movies, as Jonathan was saying, this is the type of stuff that if it is good and the word can catch on, that people go, I heard that thing was pretty good. It's got Anne Hathaway. It's got Ewan McGregor in it. Let's go check it out. It's a dinosaur movie. That's what I want to see. And that's why I'm pumped to see it tonight.
Let me ask both you guys this. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Like, I was a few days ago realizing that, oh, it opens this week. Wait a minute, it opens this week.
Yeah.
I am kind of over. Is it just me, or does it seem like they really haven't done a lot to market the film? Like, I feel this is just kind of snuck up. I don't know, Jonathan, do you feel the same way?
I mean, I think they've done what they can. I've seen the trailer pop up in recent movies, and
okay,
I can tell you this this last trailer, the official final trailer, I was already going to go see this movie, but this sold me. That final trailer was great. That's actually where I pulled those stills from. And then, like you, I was like, I thought this was at the end of August. I thought this was like a week or two out. It's
Yeah,
this
so
week.
did
I
I.
couldn't believe it. So I'm really excited because I still have the rush of so much Spider-Man and Odyssey, and I still want to go see that Tony biopic at some point, but I definitely want to see it this week.
The fact, John, that's in an early August means that the studio still has confidence in it.
Mhm.
Like late August usually means just put it there and good luck, guys. The beginning of August means we have confidence in this thing in general. But I will say that I do think the marketing has been better than maybe you think that it has, because I think where they're really marketing is they're heavily marketing YouTube. I'll tell you that right now, because
Online.
my 8-year-old, when I told she's like she wanted to see Paw Patrol, and she's like, oh, I want to see it because there's dinosaurs in it. And I go, I'm going to see a dinosaur movie. She goes, what are you going to see? End of Oak Street? I go, how do you know about that movie?
That's funny.
And she goes, I see it in all my YouTube videos. And I said, oh, I don't even know what it's about. She goes, I'll tell you. And she told me the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah.
And
Your kid's so funny, man.
she's hilarious. And so, but she told me the whole premise of the movie, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. So I'm going into it with all this knowledge from my 8-year-old that she got from watching her YouTube videos.
Yeah.
All right, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? The first reactions are now out for the End of Oak Street. You guys know I've been really interested in this film ever since they started previewing it, and I love the responses we're hearing from it. Do you think it sounds like the movie you were expecting? Does it sound a little bit different like me? Or are you like me in the fact that you're kind of surprised it's opening this week? I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a couple things to talk about here, including the fact that Paramount is now saying they will put it in a contract writing that they are going to guarantee 30 movies a year, but the state's AGs are saying you're just trying to distract things. Also, we're going to talk about Spider-Man. Spider-Man has again crossed some more box office ridiculous numbers. We're going to talk about that and a few things more, but before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Ultra Pouches. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Ultra Pouches. A lot of people use nicotine thinking it'll give them a little extra focus or even help before a workout. But nicotine is a vasoconstrictor. It narrows your blood vessels and can actually work against that pump and recovery that you're looking for. That's where Ultra Pouches come in. What you're really going to like about them is that they're 100% nicotine-free and caffeine-free. They're designed to give you smooth energy and focus without the nicotine crash. Pop one in before a workout or when you're sitting down for a long work session, and it's an incredibly convenient little boost. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use the code CAMPEA to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's TAKEULTRA.com for 15% off with the code CAMPEA. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that our show sent you. And thank you to our friends at Ultra Pouches for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. Well, the twists and turns of the Paramount Warner Brothers potential merger continues to keep rolling and going. As many of you guys remember, Ellison made a promise, at least he made a declaration, that the combined studio, he said that we would put out 30 movies a year, which seems like a lot. But now he's going one step further. As in this new story from Deadline, he's now saying, I'll put it in writing. I'll make it a contract that we will guarantee 30 films a year. This is what Deadline wrote. When it comes to Paramount's legal wrestling with 12 state attorney generals' antitrust case over the Melrose Lot's possible merger with Warner Brothers, the key is to divide and conquer with exhibition. Deadline knows that Paramount has a written commitment to at least one of the top two circuits, specifically Regal, for 30 films annually over 3 years with an exclusive 45-day theatrical window and a 90-day window to streaming. There's buzz that AMC has also had a written commitment from Paramount, but the circuit's boss, Adam Aaron, emphasized to Deadline on Sunday afternoon, AMC has no comment on this story, period, nor have we ever had any commitment on this or comment on this story. All right. There's a couple of things to note here that I think are at least relevant to the discussion. The first thing is, as it pertains to the lawsuit, it doesn't matter what movie theaters do or do not like. This is now an issue for law and the courts at that point. Now, the second thing that needs to be brought up is that this all sounds very good. And I don't say that facetiously. I mean, making a firm commitment and putting it in writing that you will commit to putting out in theaters 30 films a year, and you're going to put in writing, unlike what some of the other, like there are some other studios saying they're making commitments now to 45-day theatrical windows, but they're not putting it in writing. To say I'll put it in writing, that's going to be a 45-day theatrical exclusive window and at least 90 days until it starts streaming. That is also very good. I like hearing that. I really do. There are, however, a couple of devil in the details little things. First of all, it does say for 3 years. 3 years is the length of a cell phone contract. Some of them at any rate. 3 years comes and goes real quick. What happens after those 3 years? Why not a 10-year commitment or a 15-year commitment? Those would be hard. Those would be very hard to do, but those would be real commitments. The second thing, though, is they don't say what kind of movies they'd be putting out. It's great to say you're going to put out 30 million or 30 films a year. That is great. It's absolutely wonderful. However, are these going to be $100 million films? Or is it going to be $350 million films and 27 $2 million films that aren't going to make anything at the box office or bring anybody in? But hey, we met our commitment. We did say 30 films. Are they going to put
15?
Jackass 15?
Right.
Yeah.
Just bring it back in. Paw Patrol 47. I don't know.
Yeah.
So like when you say you're going to bring in all this stuff, what are you saying you're doing? Like, is that going to be in writing too? That we make that we're going to do 30 films a year that on average will run a production budget of about $75 million. I mean, I would be okay with that, but they're not putting that in writing. So what kind of films are you putting out in theaters? Because at some point it becomes cheaper just to crank out cheap crap and say you met your commitments. But there's also this other little elephant in the room, guys, that I have to bring up. If the best case scenarios happen across the board and everything goes the way that Paramount wants this to go, when it's all said and done, under their best case scenario, this is a company that will be $111 billion in debt, running up $5+ billion a year in interest on that. Multiple millions of dollars a day in interest. Is this a studio, despite best intentions, that is going to be even in a place where it can produce 30 legit full theatrical films a year? There might be some creative accounting dancing around to do that. So maybe yes. So look, in general, I like what David Ellison is proposing. I like a written commitment. I like committing to 45 days theatrical window. I like a lot of that stuff, but it still leaves several huge questions on the table. Like, okay, why is it only 3 years? What budget of movies are you talking about putting out in theaters? How much of a commitment are you making? Because it doesn't help the movie theaters at all if you put out 30 films, but you don't spend any money on marketing those films. What kind of a marketing commitment are you making for those 30 films? And lay out for us exactly how you're going to pay for 30 films a year when your company is going to be over $100 billion in debt. I just think these are big. Again, I like what David Ellison's saying, but I would like to see these questions answered as well. Now, in response to this thing that David Ellison put out, as well as some comments David Ellison made recently about saying, oh, this is really just about CNN. The attorney general at the lead of this lawsuit, Bonta from California, he wrote an op-ed piece today in Deadline that addresses all the things that David Ellison's talking about. And this is what he wrote. Bonta wrote the following. He said, despite the spin you may have heard in recent weeks, The lawsuit my colleagues and I filed challenging the Paramount, Skydance, and Warner Brothers merger isn't about trusting the intentions of one company or one man. It isn't about trusting that CBS News and CNN will remain independent and credible under one umbrella. It isn't about the future of streaming. The lawsuit is about antitrust law. It is a straight up antitrust enforcement case, one that is very cut and dry, one that seeks to prevent the long-term structural impact of the loss of competition, an impact that cannot be remedied with a few one-off piecemeal promises. So while others may try to flip the script and distract from the facts, I will lay out this case. And basically, he just goes on to talk about the fact that, things that we have talked about on this show before, that this is not just like, say, the Disney and Fox takeover, because Fox still exists. Fox is his own company still. Disney just bought certain assets from them. The streaming world was not what it was today. This is not just one of the biggest movie theater or movie production companies. It's also one of the biggest distributors and one of the biggest streaming networks merging in and taking over another one of the biggest studios, biggest distributors, and biggest streaming outlets. And basically what it all comes down to is a simple thing. Does this merger violate Section 7 of the Clayton Act? And when the attorney generals brought this to a judge and asked for a initial restraining order to be put in place to bar Paramount and Warner Brothers from closing their deal, the judge looked at it and ruled this. Yes, it does seem that this is a violation of Section 7 of the Clayton Act. And the judge ruled, since it appears that you are likely to prevail in this case, proving that this violates Section 7 of the Clayton law, we are going to grant the temporary injunction. Now, when the judge granted that injunction, it sent really Paramount spiraling. They knew they were going to lose the next hearing, so they agreed to put it off for a year. Now, with the trial date set, guys, for March, I don't see any conceivable way they're going to be able to finish everything off and proceed before the June 4th deadline, when Zaslav can come in, declare the deal off, and collect a $7 billion check from Paramount. So it's interesting. I still think there is an avenue here, guys, that David Ellison can propose something radical, something very big, that the attorney generals can then go, okay, if you do those things, and they would have to be big. They would have to be it's not just CNN. It's got to probably be several other major pieces on the board, and say, we'll exclude this and this and this and this from the deal. I think a deal can still be reached and they can go ahead and merge their companies, whatever that merger would look like at that point. So, Christian, I like a lot of stuff I'm hearing David Ellison say. The 30 films commitment, the 45-day theatrical commitment. It raises questions about how are you even possibly going to do that? And at the end of the day, as the California Attorney General is now jumping up and saying, this lawsuit isn't about any of that. This lawsuit is about Section 7 of the Clayton Act. And one judge has already ruled this is in violation of that. So I don't know. What do you think about these commitments that David Ellison is now making to the theaters? What do you like about them? What makes you nervous about them? And how do you see this whole thing ending up now?
Well, the commitments, I said this before, what it sounds like is that as Jonathan was mentioned before, people want to go back in the theater. People want to see movies in the theater. And it sounds like a guy who was running for high school president goes, guys, if I win, you get pizza every day and you get to bang the head cheerleader and the quarterback in the toilet whenever you want. And it's like, really? I don't know. I don't know if I buy it, but it sounds fun. But 30 movies is a lot. And so I don't necessarily know if they can swing that, because the other side of it is too, it's not just a matter, John, like you said, with the marketing and all that. It's a matter is people got to want to see them.
Yeah.
It's we're going to make all of them. Well, great. You're not going to make 30 Odysseys. You're not going to make 30 Spider-Mans. You got to that's kind of the goal. And like you said, what else are you going to make? And Are you going to be able to put these things in it? If it is it also a caveat of, well, we would probably make this for streaming and it'll be for Paramount Plus, but we'll give it a limited theater release.
Yeah,
So
like a 2 week, whatever.
technically we're putting it out in the theaters.
Yeah,
but
10
it's really-
theaters.
Right. It's technically, we did put it out in theaters. So there's always those little caveats here and there. But what I do like about it is that even without the Warner Brothers acquisition already, they're making moves and trying to do stuff with their IPs that they have, the G.I. Joe thing, the Transformers thing. The other thing is the Star Trek. They're trying to make things happen of the existing IPs that they already own. If they start to get into the Warner Brothers side of things and they can make the DC movies, and this is another reason why if this commitment is actually real, there's no world where the slate that James Gunn and Safran put together of side quest movies, they're going to go, we promised people 30 movies. Get Batman and Wonder Woman in the theater already. That's what's going to happen immediately. In the same way that they have, maybe you'll see a Cursed Child Harry Potter movie. Maybe you'll see the Game of Thrones movie will push forward even more so. So there'll be, because of the acquisition, 30 movies becomes a little bit more doable, but the legal side of it all, this is why I watch your show for that side of things, because like when I'm looking, it just hurts my head when all the deals and the things that are going to happen and potentially could happen. I do agree with you though. I think that the money that this company has and the money that this family has, they're going to say, listen, they're going to tell their lawyers, we pay you guys more than anybody pays lawyers. Figure out a way to make this happen. Figure out a way. What do we need to do? What do we have to get rid of? Who do we have to bribe? what do we have to do? And they're going to do, and kidding, of course, with the last part of it, but they're going to say, what do we need to do? And they're going to make some kind of deal, and they're going to do everything they can because, like you said, John, they don't want to be continuously losing billions of dollars in order to get this thing, because then it's going to be like, why are we even doing this?
Just a quick note to I see some people in the live chat saying, and I've heard a lot of this saying, well, it's a biased Supreme Court, so this whatever it is, the Supreme Court is just going to make it work for the Ellisons. Here's the problem. The problem is, and this is what I pointed out, the timeline of this legal process makes it as such in that legally this cannot get to the Supreme Court prior to that June 4th deadline date. That is when, the folks at Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, has the contractual right to call off the deal. And it won't get to the Supreme Court by that point. And so that's why there's going to have to be a lot of dancing. I think there's going to have to be a lot of dancing. So,
John, did I ask you this before? Because this is, and if we talked about it on your show before, I apologize. But I've thought, is there any world? Because I know you think you give a lot of credit. I call him Zoloft, but I know you give him credit. He's a smart guy. There's no doubt about it. He's a very smart guy. Is there any world where he kind of Emperor Palpatine this and saw this kind of come in and said, look, if we sell it, great, we sell it, we get this money. But the chances are they're going to have to owe us so much money for this deal never going through that we'll just operate on their money. Like once we're able to.
He has that. If you want to tell him about the memo internal memo to the employees.
So this happened a number of months ago, and this was in Variety and all that kind of stuff. David Zaslav sent out, there was kind of a virtual town hall thing with Warner Brothers employees. And a question was asked, well, what happens if the deal doesn't go through? To which it's a very short statement, but it's one that says a lot. And he said, well, if it doesn't go through, we carry on with business as usual and we collect a $7 billion check.
Right.
And it was at that moment. It was at
Unlimited
that moment.
Power.
Yeah, it was at that moment. And I went, holy crap. Yeah. David Zaslav is playing 3D chess here while everybody else is playing checkers. Yeah. This may have been a part of his plan all along. I'm not saying it is.
That. I mean, I heard that a whole deal.
And Sarandos is looking out his window like Penguin looking out over Gotham City.
Yeah. So think about this. Think about this.
In the horizon.
Remember, Netflix and Warner Brothers had a deal.
Yeah.
And the only way that deal could be broken is if, number one, Paramount pays Netflix a $2-point-something billion breakup fee. So Paramount had to pay Netflix $2-something billion for nothing. And have it written into the merger deal with Warner Brothers that if we cannot complete, you guys get a $7 billion check. So I can just picture Zaslav and Ted Sarandos on the phone one night, like sipping bourbon and going, all right, let's do this. You get a $2 billion check. We get a $7 billion check. And then we do the merger anyway later, just like a year or two. Again, I'm not saying that is what's happening. I'm just saying it would, I would not doubt it if that's the case.
The problem is that if we've thought about it, much
They've
smarter
thought about it.
and we've thought about
100%.
it. So,
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about that? David Ellison is, in honesty, and to give credit where credit's due, I think he is saying the right things right now. I'll put into writing a 30-day commitment. I'll put into writing, or a 30-film commitment. I'll put into writing a 45-day theatrical window commitment. It's just that it still raises other questions that need to be addressed. And then the states are saying none of that matters. This is an issue of law. So I don't know. What do you see happening here, guys? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, look, it's Spider-Man's world, and at this point, we're all just, temporary occupants in it, because not only did it come out and set the all-time opening weekend box office record with $360 million, which is just absurd, became one of the fastest films ever to reach $1 billion. It's already doing crazy numbers because it just had its second weekend, and it just had the third biggest second weekend in movie history. And whereas Spider-Man No Way Home, because of how much money it made on its opening weekend, it had a 70% drop off in its second weekend. Understandable, because so many people already saw it. Spider-Man Brand New Day only took a 59% drop. A 59% drop, despite the fact that it had a $360 million opening weekend. Again, making it the third biggest second weekend of all time. Only behind Avengers Endgame, which had a bigger second weekend, and Star Wars The Force Awakens, which had a bigger second weekend. And that's it. So it just continues to pile in the money. And as such, today, ladies and gentlemen, Spider-Man Brand New Day will cross into the top 10 all-time movies ever. It's happening today. These numbers are as of yesterday, but right now, when you look at the biggest films of all time, as of yesterday, Spider-Man Brand New Day sits in the number 11 spot with $1.665 billion. I don't think I'm going out on a massive limb here to guess that Spider-Man's going to make more than $10 million today. I think that one's pretty safe. So I'm going to call it, as we go out on this ledge here, Spider-Man is going to cross and surpass Jurassic World today to become the number 10 film. And then in the next day or two, it'll probably cross Inside Out. And then not too long after that, it'll pass Zootopia. Anyway, we also see at number 7, Spider-Man No Way Home at $1.9 billion. Avengers Infinity War at $2.05 billion. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens at $2.07 billion. Titanic at $2.2 billion. Avatar The Way of Water, $2.3. Avengers Endgame at $2.7, basically $2.8. And of course, Avatar is still the highest grossing film of all time at $2.9. When Spider-Man today, probably already by now, by the time we're recording this, when Spider-Man does make $10 more million and passes Jurassic World, it will have crossed the top 10 and crossed into the top 10 all-time box office films in just 13 days. 13 days to become one of the top 10 all-time biggest. It is absolutely nutty. Now, for me, the big question that this film proposes now, as far as its success, is this. Can it catch Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, as the biggest film at the domestic box office in history? I still think that's a question mark. I know there are some people think it's a foregone conclusion, and listen, there are good reasons to think that. There are totally some solid reasons to have that assumption. But it is right now pacing $100 million ahead of Star Wars The Force Awakens. But that pace has diminished. It was, after its first weekend, like $180 something million ahead of pace of Star Wars The Force Awakens. That pace gap has now been shrinking. As a matter of fact, you just saw the numbers we talked about. Star Wars The Force Awakens actually had a bigger second weekend than Spider-Man did. It's still on pace, but can it get to that to become the highest grossing domestic film of all time? Of course, Star Wars The Force Awakens sits at like $900 and something million domestically alone. Now, the analysts at this moment are projecting that Spider-Man will probably get around to the $2.5 billion mark, which, I mean, that is just a number I can barely wrap my head around. If it does indeed get to $2.5 billion, that'll make it the third biggest film of all time. Some people think it'll go past that. Some people think it won't quite get to that, but it's certainly pacing, and we'll see where it gets. But again, to me, it's about, can it catch that domestic number and pass Star Wars? Again, it's ahead of pace, guys, but the pace is slowing and the pace is shrinking. So, Christian, let me put this over to you. We've talked before about Spider-Man and just how ridiculous the success this film is having. It's obviously maintaining its legs, just under a 60% drop going into its second weekend. It's already joined the $1 billion club. As of today, it's going to cross into the top 10. Anyway, what is the most significant number here? And now that we've had a couple of weekends of its track record for us to watch, how big can this movie end up being, do you think?
The significant number is the one you didn't mention. And that's the worldwide drop was only like 49% or something.
Yeah, it's got great legs overseas.
Yeah. So the entire thing it was a crazy drop, because I think that number, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that number did beat Star Wars as far as the overall did. But the fact that you now have the domestic side of things, I think it'll get close to The Force Awakens. Analysts, as you said, that it's probably going to tap out at 2.5. Well, analysts said it was going to be 550 million opening weekend. So they were way off. I don't take too much stock in that anymore, because I think that more people want to go and see this movie. More people are excited to see this movie. More people are repeat viewing. More people are now seeing it in IMAX. I think that the first, as I mentioned this a few times, I think that the first $3 billion movie will be this year, but it's going to be Endgame when it releases. That releases in theaters in September. That will be the first $3 billion movie. Now, the crazy thing, I'm with you, John, on this, that I don't think that it could happen, but we are in an area and a crazy world where there are 3 movies that potentially could eventually all reach $3 billion starting in the same year. There's a chance with Spider-Man, although I think it's going to tap out at around 2.7, if you're going to ask me, but there's a chance. Endgame will hit that $3 billion this year. And then Doomsday could take all of this, depending on what Endgame then does with that extra footage.
Yes. You're talking about you're talking about Endgame Encore adding to the existing box office.
Correct.
Right. Actually, here's the thing though. I think because they're releasing it, now I'm going to need somebody to correct me on this, but I believe because they are adding extra footage and changing the name to Avengers, I don't know that it's going to count towards its box office. I'm not saying it won't. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying I think I heard a question raised about that, and I'm not actually sure what the answer is.
It's like Barry Bonds steroids. Barry Bonds steroids.
I don't know, because I'm looking at No Way Home, and they added new footage to that, and it counts it as you can break it down to the 22, 24, and 25 re-release, but when you go to all releases, that 1.9 is counting that.
Well, and to that point, when they did the re-release of the 4-hour extended cuts of the Lord of the Rings films, they also counted that. The big difference that somebody brought up to me that I simply don't have the answer for, again, I'm not saying it is or isn't, I'm just saying I don't have the answer, is that they are literally giving it kind of a different title. They're calling it Endgame Encore. Right. And again, I just don't know the answer to that. But
I think because it's the same movie, essentially.
Yeah, if it does, you could be right here, Christian. This thing could theoretically cross. And the thing that's going to do it is the fact that they're teasing this little post-credit scene that'll tie into Doomsday.
And if it is effective and it does put the viewers back in the seat and get it to that point, that's going to help Doomsday significantly.
Yeah. And that's the thing we've been saying for a long time, is that the biggest thing that Doomsday is either going to help or hurt it is Spider-Man. If Spider-Man comes out and is a big disappointment, it's going to hurt Marvel's momentum in general, and it's going to hurt Doomsday. But if Spider-Man is great, it's going to be the best piece of marketing that they could possibly have for Doomsday.
This is from The Independent, and it says that the box office revenue for Avengers Endgame Encore will be tracked and added to the overall lifetime box office of the
There you go.
Following standard industry and box office reporting tracking practices for theatrical re-releases. That's The Independent.
There you go. I have no reason to refute that. So there you have it. It will actually add to the domestic or to the overall box office of that, which could theoretically, I mean, will $200 million worth of people want to go out to see a movie that they can watch on Disney Plus right now?
But you can't though. You can't see this one on Disney Plus. That's the whole trick.
Not this version of it.
Not this version of it. And this is and I keep saying this, as we're even though there were all these movies that came out after No Way Home, Spider-Man Brand New Day is a direct sequel to No Way Home. After you see this credit scene in Endgame, Doomsday is going to essentially serve as a direct sequel. Sure, there are other things that happen in Marvel. Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, all that stuff. In the sense, because I had someone who say like, "Wait, it can't be a direct sequel because all these other things and they have all these different characters in it." Well, the Hulk and Punisher showed up in Brand New Day. It was still a direct sequel. It's a direct sequel. So as of today, one of the biggest box office movies, number 2 as of today, probably number 1 real soon. And if it is number 1, you're putting that sequel out there and pushing people towards it. I think it will hit that 200 million. I think worldwide people will want to see what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah, that's why. Go ahead, John.
I also believe that just like with the Odyssey showing that exclusive footage of Dune Messiah or Dune Part 3, I fully believe that they are going to be releasing exclusive Doomsday footage in front of Encore.
Yeah, probably. And listen, I remember like it has been a big topic that a lot of people write into question about. Is it possible? Like a lot of people believe that Spider-Man Brand New Day could actually end up being the bigger film of the year over Doomsday. And my response to that has always been, well, okay, take everything else out of it. The thing is, the better Spider-Man is, the bigger Doomsday will be because it's going to get everybody hyped about Marvel again. And so I agree with Christian. I think at the end of the day, the number 1 film of the year is still going to be Doomsday. I still think that's not really a question, no matter how big Spider-Man is. If Spider-Man gets to that 2.7 million, I kind of agree with the 2.5, but Christian, I think you could be onto something with the 2.7. Even if it gets 2.8, I still think Doomsday is going to be bigger, and partially because Spider-Man was so good.
Yeah. But John, you and I said this last time, and we stick by it, right? Like it is all about how good Doomsday is. That's it. Doomsday's got to be a good movie. It can't just be subpar because no matter what, the IP can only carry so much. If the first reactions and reviews come out and it's like, it's fine, then that's going to hurt it dramatically. It still do well.
That makes Secret Wars even scarier, though, if it gets.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean, I think its opening weekend is going to be insane regardless.
Yeah.
But once the opening weekend happens, because everybody's going to go see it, everybody's going to have their ticket spot long before the first reactions and the first reviews come out. But the thing is, once the opening weekend happens, if the movie's on par with the running average of the other Avengers movies in quality, sky's the limit.
Totally. Yeah.
If it's Captain America 4, it's you're talking about a 75% drop in weekend 2.
I just think that Russos have a better hold on the Marvel universe.
I agree.
But as far as Secret Wars go, Jonathan, what I would combat you there is what Secret Wars has that Doomsday doesn't is Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're going to market the shit out of Spider-Man on them, especially now. He's going to be all over Secret Wars. Even if Doomsday doesn't perform, this will be essentially the sequel for not really as far as story goes, but it'll be the first time you see him since this $2.7 billion movie comes out.
Right. Yep.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Spider-Man Brand New Day just had a ridiculous second weekend. It's the 3rd biggest second weekend in history. Today, it's going to join the top 10 films of all time, which is crazy, doing it in just 13 days. How big do you think it can actually end up being? We're getting a sense of its pacing right now. We've now got 2 weekends under our belts. How big now do you think this movie can be? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it is now time for us to go on to, of course, the most important part of our show, which is obviously taking your live comments and questions. But before we do that, we're going to take a second to bid good afternoon to Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you online and the stuff that you're doing?
Thanks, John. I am my channel, just Christian Harloff. For me, we're trying to hit that 300,000 subscriber mark. So if you can head on over there and check us out, that'd be great. I got some Kickstarter coming up in September, and I love being here. So I won't be here next week. I told John that, but I'll be back the following week.
Right, and we're so glad to have you here, man. And
Yeah,
of
man.
course, Jonathan Voico, again, all the way from downtown Burbank. Thanks. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, Jonathan.
See you guys tomorrow. It was fun.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys. With that all said and down now, let's get over to the real important stuff, your comments and questions, shall we? So now, just so you know, I did turn off the super chats about a half hour ago because you guys just packed out the super chats. So I've turned them off, but we're going to get to all the ones that you guys have already sent in here. And we are starting off with, I believe, with Wayne. And Wayne writes, hey, John. Only way I think Paramount does 30 films a year is if they count acquiring films from the festivals for distribution and release under them. Well, yeah, but that's perfectly fine. That is normal movie business. Warner Brothers and their various sub studios often acquire movies. Paramount acquires movies. Disney will acquire movies. Then they become Disney movies. They become Warner Brothers movies. So yes, that will absolutely be a part of it, but that's not a loophole. That is just standard operating business. That's standard operating business. I still don't see how a company that's going to be $111 billion in debt is going to do a lot of that, but that is an option open to them, Wayne, and it's a totally valid one for Paramount to use because, you know, all the studios do that. All right. Next up, we've got Zach Taylor who writes, Paramount offering the movie studios 30 movies a year is kind of like a scene in The Other Guys where Will and Mark characters get bribed for tickets. You know, it should be said here that it was also noted in that article. We didn't get down to the paragraph that this part was in, but it was also noted in the article that there would be penalties put into the contract if Paramount fails to meet those commitments. But the question becomes, well, what is it? $1 million if you miss it? Is it $200 million if you miss the mark? Is it $500 million? Is it $20 million per film that you're short? Like, is it, we commit to 30 and we'll pay a $10 million fine if we're short, and then they only put out 2. So they're short 28 films. Do they just sign a $10 million check? Or do they sign a $10 million check for every movie that they're short? Or is it a $10 million check to every single movie theater chain that they were, I mean, it's great that they're saying there would be penalties put in, but what kind of penalties? How strict the penalties? How across the board would it be? Again, I like what David Allison was saying in this. I do. I like it. But it raises 5 or 6 other very important questions that need to be answered to give any context to what these commitments are. So we'll see what happens there. All right, next up. Luke writes, hey, John, I saw Zack Snyder post a pic of him visiting the Warner lot. Is it likely he was there to pitch his Escape from New York remake I heard he was making? I doubt it's that. But it could be a lot of different things. Like Zack Snyder, I mean, obviously everybody wants to rush to, he's coming back to DC. No, he's not. Actually, let me walk that back for a second. I have said before, I would not count it out of the realm of possibility of James Gunn, who is buddies with Zack Snyder, of James Gunn bringing in Zack Snyder to direct not a Snyderverse movie. That's dead and gone and buried because it was awful. Its results were awful. I mean, I liked most of the films, but let's be honest, it got run into the ground. Either way, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that James Gunn and Zack Snyder, being buddies, that James Gunn would say, hey, why don't you come in and direct one of these movies I've got? I don't think that's likely, but I don't think that's impossible. What I think is probably the most likely scenario here is that he's visiting the studio like any other filmmaker going in to pitch a project. I think that would be totally normal, and I don't think there's anything much else to it. But anyway, that's just what I think. Who knows? Maybe he was there for somebody's birthday party. I have no idea. All right. Next up. Eric writes, John, have you seen the film The Drama? I have. I really like the film. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. I honestly thought the movie was terrible. That's not to say you should think it's terrible. If you enjoyed it, awesome. But I was really disappointed in it. And it's really too bad too, because I thought the performances given by Robert Pattinson, by Zendaya, were both fantastic. I love the idea of the film too. The problem is it has this big grand idea and then doesn't really do anything with it. And it breaks a lot of rules of logic. And I got to say, I remember Ann and I went to go see it. I think I did an out of theater reaction to it. I'm pretty sure I did. And I got to say, for me, I thought that movie was a real missed opportunity. I thought it could have been a really special movie. I walked away bored. I also walked away thinking it didn't give me anything. I just didn't think it was a particularly good movie. But listen, man, the important thing is you liked it. And as long as you did, that's all that matters, man. All right. Next up, we've got Dean Talks Movies, who writes, hey, John, I met Charlie Cox. Nice. Yesterday at the Dublin Comic Con. He's currently filming here in Ireland for a show called Kin. Don't know if you've heard about it, but I'd highly recommend the show. I can tell you I've never heard of the show. That's one thing, but I do love Charlie Cox. Man, I've loved him ever since Stardust. For those of you who know, you know the ramble I'm about to go on. Stardust is the singular most underappreciated movie I think ever made. I'm not saying it's the best movie ever made. I just think it is a movie that a ton of people have never even heard of. And I think it is just a woefully underappreciated, undervalued, underrated movie. It is fantastic. Stars Charlie Cox, but it also has a who's who. I mean, Ricky Gervais, Michelle Pfeiffer, Robert De Niro, Henry Cavill, Claire Danes, Peter O'Toole, Mark Strong. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's huge. It is I call it the spiritual successor to Princess Bride. If you haven't seen it, watch Stardust. I love it. I think it's absolutely magical. And I think it's the most underappreciated movie ever made, personally. All right, next up. Emmanuel writes, hey, John, finally down to a week left until Lanterns. Can we expect an after show? Man, I don't know. I'm very excited about Lanterns, man. I'm very excited about Lanterns. But do I want to do an after show for it? I don't know. I certainly can't do one on Sundays because we have D&D. We have Dungeons and Dragons. That's Ann and I. We have our Dungeons and Dragons game on Sundays. Well, John, you just did a post show on last night of House of the Dragon. Yeah, because we didn't have one last night. We just have, so I was available to do one last night. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Mondays. That's the problem. I can't do it the day of the show. And normally I prefer to do after shows the day of the show. But you know what? Tell you what, here's what I'll do. I also don't want to start an after show if I don't like the show, because I don't want to start it if I then have to stop it. Right. And I don't continue to watch a show if I'm not liking it. I don't hate watch shows like some other people do. If I don't think a show works for me, I just tap out and move on to something else I do like. Life is too short to spend times worrying and bitching about things you don't like. So I want to be careful. So I'll tell you what, I believe, correct me in the live chat if I'm wrong, but it starts Sunday, right? Let me know. I think it's Sunday that it comes out. Okay. If it is Sunday that it comes out and I like it, and I think there's a good chance, Dimash is saying yes, Sunday. Okay. So if I watch it Sunday and I enjoy it and I think this looks really solid and I think it has a chance to stay good, then we will do an after show. And we'll have to do it Monday nights because Sunday nights I have Dungeons and Dragons. So if it's good and I really like it, after show. If not, then Monday morning on the John Campea Show, you'll hear me complain about it, and then I'll never talk about it again. All right. Good question, though, man. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's see how it turns out. I am hoping for really good things about it. I am hoping for really good things for it. All right, next up. Cameron Burnett writes, while the Green Latvian Witch could be Sylvie, by the way, there's not just one Green Latvian Witch. There's a host of them. That was just a costume that the Latvian witches wear. There is not one single Latvian witch. Anyway, could be Sylvie. It's not Sylvie. What do you think about it being Morgan Le Fay from The Runaways on Hulu, Elizabeth Hurley? No, because none of the audience would understand that anyway. The only purpose of bringing in outside characters like that is because the whole audience would go, whoa, like it's so-and-so. Nobody knows that character from Runaways. I think me and 7 other people watched Runaways. So there's that. Elizabeth Hurley, like, I don't know, as Satan? Is that who, like, Elizabeth Hurley's, what was that movie she did with Brendan Fraser? Help me out, guys. By the way, how, like, stunningly beautiful is she in that? And I love that movie. What's the name of it again? I'm freezing out. The Brendan Fraser, Elizabeth Hurley movie where Elizabeth Hurley is the devil. Anybody in the live chat know it? Bedazzled. Yes. CLS was the first person to put in. Oh my God, I love Bedazzled. So do you mean Elizabeth Hurley from Bedazzled? That would be kind of fun. No. I think the Latvian witches are literally going to be Latvian witches. I don't think it's going to be Sylvie. I don't think it's going to be the girl from Runaways. I don't think it's going to be Elizabeth Hurley. Although I would get a kick out of that if it did. But no, the whole point of it doing something like that would be to give the audience a big dopamine hit of, I remember that person, when it's something that nobody ever watched. So, and again, they're Latvian witches. They are witches from Latveria. So yeah, I don't think, and by the way, I don't know who the witches are. I know a lot about Doomsday. Now everybody in the world does too. But I mean, I honestly don't know who specifically is under the mask. I don't know that ever becomes an issue in the movie. I just don't know. But I don't think it's going to be that. But it's an interesting theory, Cameron. All right, next up. We got Patrick Stewart, who sends in a $50 super chat. Patrick, thank you so much, man, for supporting our show on that level. That's incredible. Thank you, dude. And what does Patrick write? Patrick writes, on Friday, I saw Spider-Man for the 4th time. I made my 4th viewing of the movie in IMAX format. Nice. The sound could be felt in several scenes. I'm trying to find seats for Dolby close to Washington, D.C., and I'm struggling to find available seats. And you know what? It probably will be a struggle for a little while. Give it another week. But if you like sound, the sound in a Dolby theater is second to none. Like it's absolutely second to none. I love IMAX. Love it. Actually, you know what? Tonight I'm doing a first. I have never visited a Screen X before. Never been to one. I've never even really known where one existed. But I found out there was one in Orange County, not far from me, about half hour from where I live, at a Cinemark, and they have a Screen X. So me and Ann are going to go try our first Screen X experience tonight. We're going to go see Spider-Man in Screen X tonight. So I'm kind of excited for that. Anyway, that aside, I love IMAX, love it. But I got to say, sound is part of the reason that my first choice is usually a prime Dolby at an AMC. Not just because the projection is top notch, but the sound is incredible. The sound is really incredible. So I hope you get a chance to experience the movie in that format as well. I'm still only on my 2nd viewing, Patrick. I've still only seen it twice. So tonight will be my 3rd screening of the movie. I'm really excited to go back and watch it some more. All right. Next up. And by the way, Patrick, again, thank you for supporting us on that level. That's incredibly generous of you, man. Really appreciate it, Patrick. All right, next up, Eric writes, John, my favorite scene in last night's episode was Helena calling out Rhaenyra saying everything you care about is ugly. Yeah, I don't want to go into any spoilers about last night's episode of House of the Dragon because it's only been out for a few. I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If a show comes out on television, I think it's fair to talk about the next day. I know not everybody agrees with me, and that's fine. It's often lonely being right. But when a football game happens on Sunday night, on Monday, you can't expect people not to talk about the game that happened last night and what the final score was. Like, if you don't know what it is, that's on you. That's your responsibility. It was available. It came out. If you wanted to watch it, you should have watched it. Everybody should be totally free to talk about, wow, it's amazing how, the Philadelphia Eagles beat up on the Seattle Seahawks yesterday, 36-21. It should totally fair game. I think the same thing about television shows. Totally do. But for House of the Dragon, I will relent for a day and not talk about spoilers in it, but I think that should be open to think. But I will say this. Yes, that moment was great. I did an open spoiler discussion of the House of the Dragon episode last night. I loved it. I loved it. I think the whole season was great. I think it's my favorite season. And it had some of my favorite moments of any Game of Thrones verse show, whether it's Seven Kingdoms, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. I've loved this season. I thought last night's finale was an absolute banger. All right. Next up, Assistant Professor X writes, John, Higgsfield made the world's first 90-minute action movie, Hellgrind, and it's impressive. They just released a second 2-action-hour comedy. Don't care. Don't care about AI-generated movies. Really don't care at all. Now, look, I am not a technology rejecter. I do believe, like, the development of any tool, if a tool can come along that can be an interesting tool in a filmmaker's holster, figure out a way to use it and to use it right. I remember a lot of people were very angry when computer animated graphics came around. They were very angry. But it's still storytellers telling stories, right? But I got to admit, right now, I don't have any interest in, like, whatever Higgsfield does or whatever image modeling thing that they have. I'm just not interested. It just doesn't move the needle for me right now. All right. Next up, we've got Rich Reviews, who sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that, man. And Rich writes, a film I am excited for is the documentary Once Upon a Time in Harlem. The footage shot in 1972, now being released, is the director at a house party of Duke Ellington and other luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance. Okay. I have not heard of this project. It is now instantly on my interest list. That sounds I had no idea what it could be about when you said the title of it, but that is now very high on my interest list. I want to see it. I want to see that now. All right. Thank you, Rich, for not only sending a question, but supporting us on that level. Really appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And thank you for bringing that movie to my attention. All right. Daniel Harmon writes, hey, John, been listening for 8 months and love the show. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. If you were Feige, would you build another interconnected MCU saga or focus on making individual franchises great first? I think it's a misnomer that you have to do one or the other, right? I think that's a misnomer. I think, look, what made the MCU successful in its first 3 phases was not that it was an interconnected universe. It's that they made great individual movies. Thor: The Dark World and Iron Man 2 notwithstanding, the thing that Marvel did not become the biggest thing in the box office history because they were interconnected movies. Did that help? Sure. But none of that would have meant anything if the individual movies weren't beloved. Having Samuel Jackson come out at the end of the movie, here's a great example. Okay. Having Samuel Jackson coming out at the end of Iron Man and saying, working on something called the Avengers Initiative. That wouldn't have meant anything if the movie hadn't been great. You know what it would have been? What was the name of that movie about dragons that was the big hit book series? Agathon, or what was the name? It started with an A. Is the name of the dragon. Help me out, guys. Agalon, Agathon, A-Pom-Pom, Oh My God Upon, whatever it was called. Aragon. Okay, there it is. It wasn't A, it was an E. Aragon. Okay. If Iron Man wasn't as great as it was, that last moment of Samuel Jackson saying, I'm doing the Avengers Initiative, wouldn't have meant any more than the post-credit scene of Aragon. Do you guys remember the post-credit scene of Aragon? You guys remember the post-credit scene? It was basically the same thing. I believe it was John Malkovich going over and like pulling down the drape, and he's got his big dragon. Ooh, that means it's a sequel. It's going to be a big cinematic universe. But nobody cared. Nobody cared because the movie was bad. So nobody cared. Samuel Jackson's pronouncing that, oh, I'm doing the Avengers Initiative. Yeah, huge pop, huge thing at the end of the movie, but it was only that way because the movie was great and people loved it. Being a big shared cinematic universe certainly helped. Absolutely did. I'm not taking away from that. But again, none of it would matter unless the individual films were great. So you got to make great individual films, whether the individual films are with one solitary superhero, 2 or 3 of them teaming up, or a team of 6 or 7. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, the individual films need to be really good. Otherwise, none of it matters. So that would be what I would say to that. Anyway. All right. Good question, Daniel. Next up, Rich Reviews writes in again. He says, do you think the deal between Ellison and the States / WGA is possible, or is the well too poisoned? I believe a deal is possible. Yeah, I said that a little bit earlier in the show. I still believe a deal is possible to make this all work. Now, the deal will require Paramount to give up significant pieces. And it ain't CNN. It ain't CNN. CNN will not do anything to satisfy the Section 7 of the Clayton Act clauses at all. It's going to have to be big, significant pieces. Because as the states, the AGs wrote, not only is this one movie company controlling X amount of the movie industry, they're also going to be controlling 50 of the largest television networks, like at the same time, like both of them. So they're going to have it. Honestly, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it may actually involve them having to cutting HBO Max out of the deal. How do you separate HBO from Warner Brothers? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But it's going to take something big and significant. And then the Ellisons will have to decide if that big significant thing is too big and therefore have to abandon the deal, or if it's worth swallowing in order to get the rest of the deal to go through. And it's not going to just be one big significant thing. I think it's going to have to be a collection of big significant things. What that would be and what the AGs would be satisfied with, I don't know. But to answer your question, yes, I still think a deal between the states and Paramount in order to clear the way to make the merger happen, I do believe a deal is still possible. The question will be if the price tag of that deal is going to be too big for the Ellisons to accept. But we'll see. I do think there is a compromise out there that can be reached. I just know that they will. All right. Good question, man. Eugene writes, sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Eugene. Appreciate that, dude. And Eugene writes, Odyssey really deserves to beat Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, nothing deserves anything. You deserve as much as you make, right? Like the great NFL coach said, we are who we are. Our record says who we are. I think it was Bill Parcells said that. Your record tells you who you are. There's not about deserving to be better. You are what you are. Anyway, Odyssey really deserves to beat Deadpool and Wolverine. I hope it does. Not only is it an epic masterpiece, but also I think it's doing well because there are so many deep themes in that that are so resonant with people today. Oh, listen, I think Odyssey is fantastic. It is, what is my 3rd or 4th favorite film of the year? No. It is my favorite film of the year so far. I'm trying to think about which is 3 or 4. Because the top 3 right now for me are easy. My favorite film of the year is The Odyssey. My second favorite film of the year, I believe, is Project Hail Mary. Then you're getting down to the second favorite film is The Invite. Second favorite film is The Invite. Third favorite film is Project Hail Mary. And then in 4th spot, Sheep Detectives or Odyssey or I mean obsession, or obsession. Yeah. Anyway, listen, the movie's at $1.1 billion already. I mean, not already. It's been out for a while. It only has about 200 plus more million to go. It can reach it. It can reach Deadpool's numbers. It can. I'm not saying it will, but it definitely can. So let's see where things are at after next weekend. But yeah, next weekend will tell us. I think after next weekend, it will absolutely tell us if it's going to cross Deadpool or not, but it's definitely got a shot. All right. Thanks for that, Eugene. Miostes, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Forgive me. Writes, prediction, I think Frozen 3 will make $2 billion. Well, I mean, first we got to see if Frozen 3 is any good. Right? We got to see if it's any good. But the Frozen movies have been phenomenons. And listen, I'm not going to lie. They're not made for me, but I love them. I'll just tell you right now, I love those movies. I am definitely not their target audience. They're definitely not made for me, and that's okay. I still love them. I don't mind telling you I love them. Man, I love the music in it. And you know what? As good as that big song from the first movie, Let It Go, I mean, that song's amazing. It's been overplayed, but it doesn't take away from the fact. It's a phenomenal piece of music. It's so good. But I think the song from the second film, Into the Unknown, I think that song is almost as good as Let It Go. Like, I think that is a banger of a song. I think the music in Frozen has been so good, and I love those films. And you know what? If the movie's good, when you look at what's been happening with Inside Out 2 and Zootopia 2, I wouldn't put money against Frozen 3 making $2 billion. I mean, I don't think it'll be $2 billion, but I'm not going to bet any money against it. Let's see how good the movie is, or not, when it comes out. All right. Drew writes, I am loving the casting updates for the Zelda movie. Yuli, I'm sure I'm going to say the name wrong, Latu Ekfu as Gan, and Lydia Peckham are great additions on top of an already fantastic cast. Yeah, again, yesterday I just discovered, I'm sure other people already knew, but Yvonne Strahovski has been added to it. I've loved her since Chuck, love her in The Handmaid's Tale. I think she's great. Looking forward to seeing her. But again, the big thing for me that has gotten me really interested in this movie is the kid playing Link. The kid who plays King Darren in House of the Dragon. I love this. I think this kid's great. I really like this kid. I think he's been fantastic in House of the Dragon. And so that's been the piece of casting news for me that has really kind of put me from being really interested in this live action Zelda movie to being straight up excited for this live action Zelda movie. All right. Basement Dad writes, seeing Hugh Jackman live tomorrow night with the Boston Pops. Nice. He'll be performing songs from his Broadway and movie career. Super stoked. You know what? I remember a year or two ago, he was going around and doing like on tour as a one-man show. I would have loved to have seen that. I think when he was in LA, I think I was out of town, but I absolutely would have loved to have seen that. I think that would be great. So I'm kind of jealous that you get to go and experience that. I hope you have a good time, man. All right. Next up, Alex Mercer writes, hey, John, managed to see Spider-Man Brand New Day in 4DX and RPX at the Regal. The entire theater room was basically an Xbox controller, and it was a great experience. Listen, I can't remember now if I've gone to see one or two films in 4DX. That's the one where the chairs move and all that kind of stuff. I remember the first movie I went to go see in a 4DX was at a Regal. I think it was at the Regal at the Irvine Spectrum Center. And I went to go see was it Twisters? Yeah. That's the name of the one. Like with Glenn Powell. That was the perfect movie to watch in 4DX. Now, I remember coming out of it saying, I don't know if I'd want to watch a lot of movies in 4DX. It has to be the right one. But man, Twisters was perfect for 4DX. I wonder if Spider-Man would be good. Again, I'm going to go see Spider-Man in a different kind of theater tonight with a ScreenX. I wonder how I would like Spider-Man in a 4DX. Anyway, glad you had a good time, Alex. Next up, McCrae writes, hey, John, have you noticed or seen these artificial intelligence movies will have your boy Henry's face as the main characters or characters? It's crazy. You know what? No, but my wife, Ann, I don't know the name of them, but she's been watching these Dungeons and Dragons, this Dungeons and Dragons movie that's being released in like 10-minute chunks. And it's like the main character is a tiefling. If any of you guys know in the live chat what I'm talking about, but they're on YouTube and they come out once a week, I think, in these 10-minute chunks, and they're done with AI. And the story's actually pretty good. The AI, yeah, the AI is the AI, but she's been watching these and they're actually pretty okay. But one of the first things I've noticed is that a number of their characters' faces absolutely look like Henry Cavill. But worse than that, the main character, which is a tiefling, his voice completely sounds like Henry Cavill. So somewhere there's an AI circle jerk club, and they've all got little statues of Henry Cavill. My boy Henry, who I have standing here watching Vigil over the studio, have some kind of club where they are all very, very committed to Henry Cavill, because it seems like a lot of these all either look like Henry Cavill or, as in the case of this one that my wife is watching, very much sounds like Henry Cavill. So Henry Cavill seems to be the poster boy for AI influence, I guess. All right. Brandon Bowers writes, where are we at? 1 of 2. I'd argue that price gouging is a bigger reason to be cynical of modern box office than inflation. Between 2015 and 2026, U.S. inflation rose 35%. However, in 2015 and 2026, the average movie ticket went from $8.43 to $15.76, respectively. That's an 87% increase, is a lot more than inflation. So I did, because of all the Spider-Man stuff that, with Spider-Man breaking records and all that kind of stuff, I've had, again, as I've had my entire career, always have people writing into me saying, John, whenever you talk about box office, why don't you talk about inflation? So I finally made an editorial video this weekend about why I don't count inflation. I think inflation is a false equivalency. It takes one era variable while ignoring all the other era variables. And I just think it's a pointless exercise, much like different eras in sports produce different results. Therefore, in sports, we just take the raw unaltered numbers, right? Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs. You don't adjust that for anything. He just hit 60 home runs. How do you compare that? It's not a perfect system. It's not, but there is no perfect system. Actually, I have to get around a little bit later because I've been informed that my friend Dan Merle, who is brilliant, by the way, I love Dan, huge respect. I'm not bitter at all that he handed me my one single solitary singles movie trivia defeat. I'm not bitter about it at all. I don't lose sleep over it. I'm fine. Anyway, apparently I've been informed that Dan, after I made my video because so many people kept asking me, John, why don't you count inflation? Why I made this editorial about exactly why I don't count inflation. And you shouldn't count inflation. Apparently I've been informed that Dan made a rebuttal video, because Dan does count inflation. And he made a rebuttal video about why inflation does count. Listen, inflation is a real thing, absolutely. But when it comes to how we evaluate box office numbers, it's a cherry-picked stat because it ignores all the other variables. And that's why I reject it. But I do have to go and watch Dan's video to see what Dan had to say about it. Again, I'm sure he's going to say some incredibly salient and very, very smart things. But I'm going to have to go and watch that at some point. All right. Next up, we've got Keaton, who writes, we don't want 30 minutes of ads before movies. AMC, somebody get these beggars out of here. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to take the bait on going off on one of my 30-minute tangents about showing 30 minutes of ads in a movie that you paid to go see. Not going to do it, but yes, it's awful, it's terrible, and it's got to be stopped. But I'm not taking the bait, Keaton. I'm not taking the bait. All right. Next up, and the last one today, comes to us from Zach Webb. And Zach Webb writes, hey, John, do you think DC Studios should come out and address the status of projects that they announced versus the direction they seem to be headed now? I was excited for Swamp Thing, but haven't seen a thing about it. Thanks. No, they shouldn't. and the reason I'm going to say they shouldn't is because unlike Blade, which was like at the center of the conversation for a very long time, Blade, where they literally had the casting and marched the star, Mahershala Ali, out onto stage and announced at Comic-Con, Blade. Unlike that, 99% of the average movie-going public has no idea DC was planning on doing a Swamp Thing movie. That's just a fact. Like 99% of the movie-going audience doesn't even know, never knew. So I don't think they should address it until they have something to say. Like once they decide that they're going to move forward with it and they're now in development, say that. Once they 100% decide, we're just going in a different direction now, we're not going to do Swamp Thing, then say it. For now, what would be the point of addressing anything? Just to be honest with you, I could be right, I could be wrong, but it just seems to me, if you don't have anything to report, don't report. Report when you've got something to report. Report that we're now starting development of the movie, or report we've decided not to do this movie. But I don't think for a movie that 99% of the average movie going on just doesn't even know exists or heard of or whatever, I really don't think they need to come out and say anything at this point. So let's reevaluate as we move along, as they would say. All right, guys. And that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to the thousands of you guys here in the live chat. You guys make this show fun doing live. It's great watching your comments. And even when we hit things like, we don't know this, and we ask you guys and you guys give us answers, and just watching your conversations with each other makes it a lot of fun to do this show. So thank you guys so much for being here and making this live show a part of your day. Also, big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the super chats. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And everybody involved with the show, thanks you guys so very much for your support. All right. I'm going to go off and watch me some Spider-Man now in a Screen X theater, which I've never done before. I'm kind of excited about my experience. I'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow on the show. We've already got a few items lined up for tomorrow's show. We hope you guys will come back and join us. Big thanks, of course, to Christian Harloff and, of course, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name is John Campea, and until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.